The brick missed my head by inches and exploded against the kitchen wall behind me, leaving a crater in the plaster as my mother-in-law screamed those words that would change everything. "Useless fat cow. Get out of my house." I stood there, frozen, my hand instinctively protecting my 8-month pregnant belly, watching pieces of brick scatter across the floor I had just finished mopping for the third time that day. My name is Charlotte Webb, and this is the story of how I survived 3 years of hell in a pristine suburban home in Chester, England, where the manicured lawns and perfect rose gardens hid the ugliest kind of cruelty. Before I tell you what happened next, before I reveal how this nightmare finally ended, let me take you back to where it all began, because sometimes the worst prisons are the ones with welcome mats and family photos on the walls. It was April 2019 when I first met Marcus Thornton at a charity fundraiser in Manchester. I was 26, working as a primary school teacher, still living in my modest flat in Salford, trying to save money while paying off my student loans. Marcus was 31, charming, successful, a financial analyst with a corner office and a smile that made my knees weak. He wore expensive suits, drove a sleek BMW, and when he talked about his family, his voice filled with warmth and devotion. His mother, Patricia Thornton, was a retired headmistress, he told me. A woman of principle and dignity. A pillar of the community. If you're enjoying this story and want to hear more real-life dramas like this one, please click that subscribe button right now. We're working hard to reach 1,000 subscribers, and your support means everything to this channel. Just hit the red subscribe button below. It only takes a second, and you'll be helping us grow this community of people who appreciate authentic stories about real struggles and real triumphs. Our courtship was a whirlwind of romantic dinners, weekend trips to the Lake District, and long conversations about building a future together. Marcus seemed perfect, attentive, thoughtful, always opening doors and pulling out chairs. He listened when I talked about my students, laughed at my terrible jokes, and made me feel like I was the center of his universe. 6 months later, on a crisp October evening with autumn leaves swirling around us in Heaton Park, he got down on one knee and asked me to marry him. I said yes, without hesitation, tears streaming down my face, believing I had found my forever. The first time I met Patricia Thornton was 3 weeks after our engagement, at Sunday lunch in her sprawling Victorian home in Chester. The house was magnificent, all high ceilings, original cornicing, and antique furniture that probably cost more than my annual salary. Patricia herself was immaculate, 63 years old with silver hair styled in a perfect bob, wearing a cashmere twin set and pearls, her posture so straight it looked painful. She greeted me with a thin smile that never reached her cold gray eyes, scanning me from head to toe like a general inspecting a disappointing recruit. "So you're the primary school teacher," she said, making my profession sound like something she had scraped off her shoe. "Marcus tells me you live in Salford. How bohemian." I tried to laugh it off, extending my hand warmly. "It's lovely to finally meet you, Mrs. Thornton. Marcus has told me so much about you." She ignored my hand, turning instead to her son. "Marcus, darling, why don't you help me in the kitchen? I'm sure Charlotte can entertain herself in the sitting room. There are some magazines on the coffee table, nothing too intellectually demanding." That lunch lasted for excruciating hours. Patricia spent the entire time asking pointed questions about my background, my family, my education. When I mentioned my father was a bus driver and my mother worked in a supermarket, her lip actually curled. When I told her I had graduated from Manchester Metropolitan rather than Oxford or Cambridge, she made a small sound of disappointment. Every answer I gave seemed to confirm her worst suspicions about me. Marcus, bless him, tried to deflect and change subjects, but his mother steamrolled over every attempt. "You know, Marcus," Patricia said over dessert, completely ignoring my presence, "Felicity Ashworth's daughter Emma is back from New York. She's working for Goldman Sachs now. Such an accomplished young woman. You two always got on so well at university." The tension was suffocating, but I told myself it was just first meeting jitters. Surely she would warm up to me eventually. Marcus assured me on the drive home that his mother just needed time to adjust, that she had always been protective of him, that underneath her stern exterior was a woman who cared deeply about family. I wanted so desperately to believe him. Our wedding in March 2020 should have been my first warning. Patricia took over the entire planning process, dismissing every idea I suggested. I wanted a small, intimate ceremony in a country hotel. She insisted on a formal church wedding with 200 guests at a prestigious venue in Cheshire. I wanted wildflowers and fairy lights. She hired a florist who created massive arrangements of white roses and lilies that looked like funeral displays. When I timidly suggested inviting more of my family and friends, she informed me that standards must be maintained and that not everyone would be comfortable in such refined surroundings. The worst moment came during the reception when Patricia gave a speech that never once mentioned my name. She talked about Marcus's achievements, about the Thornton family legacy, about how proud she was to see her son embarking on this new chapter. She raised her glass to the bride, as if I were a generic placeholder rather than a person. My mother, sitting beside me, squeezed my hand so tightly I could feel her anger radiating through her fingers. But what could I do? It was done. I was married now, and Marcus kept whispering that everything would be fine, that we would build our own life together, that his mother's opinion didn't matter. Then came the bombshell. 3 weeks after our honeymoon in the Maldives, Marcus sat me down in our small rented flat in Didsbury with news that made my stomach drop. His company was relocating him to a project in London that would last at least 2 years. Long-distance marriage wasn't ideal, he explained, looking genuinely distressed. But there was a solution. His mother had suggested we move into her house in Chester. It was enormous, plenty of room, and we could save money for our own place. Just temporary, he promised. Just until the London project ended, and we could buy our own home. If you're invested in finding out what happens next, do me a huge favor and smash that subscribe button. We're racing toward 1,000 subscribers, and every single subscription helps us create more content like this. Your click matters more than you know. Just hit subscribe, and you'll never miss another story from this channel. Every instinct I had screamed no, but Marcus made such logical arguments. We would save thousands of pounds in rent. The commute to my school from Chester was manageable. His mother was getting older and could use the company. And most persuasively, he would be home every weekend, and surely I wouldn't want to spend weekdays alone in a flat when I could be in a beautiful house. Looking back now, I can see how he wore down my resistance, how he made me feel selfish for even hesitating. I was 27 years old, newly married, desperately in love, and terrified of seeming difficult or ungrateful. So I agreed. We moved into Patricia's house in May 2020, right as the world was still reeling from the pandemic lockdowns. The house had 6 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a formal dining room, a library, and a conservatory overlooking an acre of perfectly maintained gardens. Patricia gave us a large bedroom on the 2nd floor with an ensuite bathroom, and I tried to be grateful, tried to see it as a temporary adventure. Marcus left for London that first Monday morning, kissing me goodbye and promising to call every evening, leaving me alone with my mother-in-law. The transformation was immediate and terrifying. The moment Marcus's car disappeared down the driveway, Patricia's mask of civility evaporated. She appeared in the kitchen doorway where I was making tea, her face twisted with contempt. "Let's get something straight right now, Charlotte," she said, her voice like ice chips. "This is my house. You are here on sufferance. You will follow my rules, maintain my standards, and stay out of my way. Do you understand?" I stared at her, stunned, the tea bag frozen halfway to my mug. "Mrs. Thornton, I thought we could make this work, all of us together." "Don't be stupid," she snapped. "You trapped my son into marriage, and now you're living in my home rent-free. The least you can do is make yourself useful. There's a list of chores on the refrigerator. I expect them completed daily. Breakfast is at 7 sharp, lunch at noon, dinner at 6. You'll do all the cooking and cleaning. I have standards, and I will not have them lowered because Marcus made the catastrophic mistake of marrying beneath his station." The list on the refrigerator was 3 pages long. Vacuum the entire house daily. Dust all surfaces, including the tops of door frames and picture rails. Clean all bathrooms until they sparkled. Polish the silver. Iron the linens. weed the gardens, wash the windows inside and out, prepare 3 meals a day to specific recipes Patricia provided, hand wash her delicate items. The list went on, tasks that would take a full-time housekeeper 8 hours a day to complete. But I have a job, I protested weakly. I teach year 3 at Millbrook Primary. I leave at 7:30 every morning, and I'm not back until 5. Patricia's smile was cruel. Then I suggest you learn to be more efficient with your time. Perhaps get up earlier. Go to bed later. This is what you signed up for when you married into this family. That first week was a nightmare. I got up at 5 in the morning to prepare Patricia's breakfast exactly as she demanded, porridge with a specific consistency, tea in her grandmother's china cup, toast cut into precise triangles. Then I would rush to clean whatever rooms I could before leaving for school. I taught all day, exhausted and distracted, then raced home to cook dinner, clean up, do laundry, and complete whatever tasks Patricia had deemed unsatisfactory from the morning. She would follow me around the house, pointing out invisible specks of dust, criticizing my cooking, finding fault with everything I did. Call this clean? I can see streaks on this mirror. Do it again. This chicken is dry. You've ruined it. Make something else. Why is there a cup in the sitting room? I don't live in a pigsty, Charlotte. Show some respect for my home. I called Marcus every night in tears, and he would make soothing noises, promise to talk to his mother, insist it would get better. But nothing changed. When he came home on weekends, Patricia transformed back into the dignified matriarch, all sweetness and light, fussing over her darling boy and making subtle digs at me that he either didn't notice or chose to ignore. Charlotte seems tired, Marcus. I do hope she's not finding the housework too taxing. After all, it's not as if she's doing anything I didn't do for your father for 30 years. Mum's been telling me how helpful you've been, Marcus would say to me, completely oblivious. See? I knew you two would get along once you got to know each other. The months blurred together in a haze of exhaustion and misery. By September, I had lost a stone in weight, had dark circles under my eyes that no concealer could hide, and was making mistakes at work because I was so perpetually tired. My mother called me frequently, worried about my increasingly hollow voice, but I couldn't tell her the truth. What would I say? That my mother-in-law was treating me like an unpaid servant? That my husband was never there to see it? It sounded crazy even in my own head. Patricia's cruelty escalated gradually, so slowly that I almost didn't notice the progression. She started accidentally knocking over vases I had just arranged, so I would have to clean up the water and broken glass. She would inspect my cleaning with a white glove, literally, then make me redo entire rooms because she found a single hair or dust particle. She began criticizing my appearance, my clothes, my hair, my weight. You're looking rather chunky, Charlotte. Marcus has always preferred slender women. Emma Ashworth has maintained her figure beautifully. She was asking about Marcus at the church fundraiser last week. The comments about Emma Ashworth became a regular torture. Patricia made sure I knew that Emma was successful, beautiful, accomplished, everything I was not. She would leave her phone lying around with messages from Emma visible on the screen, innocent enough, but designed to make me feel inadequate and threatened. So lovely to catch up with Marcus at lunch yesterday. We should do it more often. Here's something important. If you're still listening and you want to support this channel as we share these raw, real stories, please take 5 seconds to click subscribe. We're building a community here, and your subscription helps us reach more people. Just hit that button, help us get to 1,000 subscribers, and you'll be part of something meaningful. Every single subscription counts. In November 2020, I discovered I was pregnant. Despite everything, despite the hell I was living in, I felt a surge of pure joy. A baby. Our baby. Something that was mine and Marcus's. Something Patricia couldn't control or taint. I told Marcus first, calling him at work, and his whoop of excitement made me cry happy tears for the first time in months. We told Patricia that weekend over Sunday roast, and I actually saw fear flicker across her face before she forced a smile. How wonderful, she said, the word dragged out like she was pulling teeth. I suppose you'll need to be more careful now. Pregnancy is no excuse for letting standards slip, of course. My generation worked right up until we gave birth and didn't complain about it. If I thought Patricia was cruel before, pregnancy turned her into something monstrous. She became obsessed with my weight gain, making comments about eating for two being a myth and wondering aloud if I would ever get my figure back. She insisted I continue all the housework with no concessions for morning sickness, fatigue, or my growing belly. When I was 12 weeks pregnant and vomiting every morning, she stood outside the bathroom door complaining about the noise and telling me to pull myself together. Women have been having babies since the dawn of time, Charlotte. Stop being so dramatic. My doctor visits became Patricia's opportunity to undermine me further. She insisted on coming to every appointment, claiming she wanted to be an involved grandmother, but really she came to contradict everything I said and make me look incompetent. When I mentioned to my midwife that I was feeling tired, Patricia laughed and said I was exaggerating, that I always had been lazy. When I asked about nutrition during pregnancy, Patricia interrupted to say that I was eating too much and needed to show more self-control. The midwife, a kind woman named Sarah with sharp, observant eyes, pulled me aside at my 16-week appointment while Patricia was in the waiting room. "Charlotte, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest with me. Are you safe at home? Are you being supported properly?" I wanted so badly to tell her the truth, to break down and explain everything, but what would that accomplish? Patricia hadn't hit me, hadn't done anything I could point to as abuse. She was just mean. Controlling. Cruel. Who would believe that a respectable retired headmistress was tormenting her pregnant daughter-in-law? Marcus certainly didn't believe it. Every time I tried to explain what was happening, he made excuses for her, told me I was being oversensitive, suggested that my hormones were making me emotional. "I'm fine," I lied to Sarah, forcing a smile. "Just tired. First pregnancy nerves, you know?" Sarah didn't look convinced, but what could she do? She gave me her card and told me to call anytime, day or night, if I needed anything. I tucked it into my purse and forgot about it, too exhausted to think about escape routes or safety plans. By my second trimester, I was working myself to the point of collapse. Teaching 5-year-olds all day required energy and patience I no longer had. Coming home to Patricia's impossible demands and constant criticism was draining the life out of me. I was 6 months pregnant. My back ached constantly, my ankles swelled, and I could barely keep my eyes open past 8 in the evening. But Patricia's expectations never wavered. "The silver needs polishing, Charlotte. And those windows are filthy. What have you been doing all day?" "I've been teaching 28 children, Mrs. Thornton. I'm exhausted." Exhaustion is a state of mind. I worked full-time as a headmistress, while raising Marcus and maintaining a household. You young women today have no backbone, no resilience. You expect everything to be handed to you on a silver platter. One February evening, when I was 7 months pregnant, I was in the kitchen preparing dinner, something elaborate Patricia had demanded involving multiple courses and precise timing. My feet were killing me, the baby was pressing on my bladder, and I felt lightheaded from standing so long. I reached up to get a serving platter from a high shelf, stretching on my tiptoes, when suddenly the world tilted. I grabbed the counter to steady myself, accidentally knocking a glass onto the floor where it shattered into 1,000 pieces. Patricia appeared in the doorway like she had been waiting for me to make a mistake. "Now look what you've done." "That was Waterford crystal. You clumsy cow. That glass cost more than your entire wardrobe." "I'm sorry," I gasped, still dizzy, gripping the counter. I felt faint. "I just need to sit down for a minute." "You'll clean up this mess right now," she hissed, her face inches from mine. "I don't care if you're pregnant. You'll clean up every single shard, and then you'll finish making dinner, and then you'll do the washing up, and then maybe I'll consider letting you sit down." You are the most useless, pathetic excuse for a woman I've ever had the misfortune to meet. My son deserves so much better than you. Something snapped in me that night. Maybe it was hormones, maybe it was 7 months of accumulated abuse, maybe it was maternal instinct finally overriding my people-pleasing tendencies. I looked at this woman who had made my life hell, who had worked me like a servant while I carried her grandchild, who had never once shown me a moment of kindness or compassion, and I found my voice. No, I said quietly. Patricia's eyes widened. What did you say to me? I said no. I'm not cleaning this up right now. I'm not cooking your elaborate dinner. I'm not doing anything else tonight. I'm 7 months pregnant. I've been on my feet since 5 this morning, and I'm going to my room to rest. You can clean up your own glass and make your own dinner. The slap came so fast I didn't see it coming. Her palm connected with my cheek with a crack that echoed through the kitchen, snapping my head to the side and bringing instant tears to my eyes. I stood there, hand on my burning cheek, staring at her in shock. Don't you ever speak to me like that again, Patricia said, her voice shaking with rage. This is my house. You are nothing. You are a gold-digging little parasite who trapped my son, and the only reason I tolerate your presence is because you're carrying his child. But make no mistake, once that baby is born, I will make sure Marcus sees you for what you really are. I will destroy you, and I will take that child and raise it properly, the way it should be raised, not by some common little slut from Salford. If you're listening to this and you're shocked by what you're hearing, please do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button. We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, and every subscription helps us keep telling these important stories. Just click subscribe. It takes 2 seconds, and you'll be supporting our channel as we share real experiences that need to be heard. I ran upstairs and locked myself in the bedroom, sobbing so hard I thought I might be sick. I called Marcus immediately, my words tumbling out in a hysterical rush. Your mother hit me. She slapped me, Marcus. She called me horrible names, and she threatened to take our baby. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then Marcus sighed, and I knew with sinking certainty that he wasn't going to believe me. Char, come on. Mom would never hit anyone. You probably said something that upset her, and things got heated. You know how you can be when you're tired and emotional. Maybe you imagined it was worse than it was. I didn't imagine anything. She hit me. My face is still stinging. Look, I'll talk to her when I get home on Friday, okay? Just try to get along until then. Can you do that for me? For the baby? I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. He didn't believe me. My husband, the man who had vowed to love and protect me, thought I was lying or exaggerating. I hung up and cried myself to sleep on top of the duvet, still fully clothed, my hand protectively cradling my belly. The next morning, I found the glass cleaned up and a note on the kitchen table in Patricia's precise handwriting. Marcus called me last night. I'm disappointed you felt the need to fabricate such stories. I understand pregnancy can make women unstable and prone to histrionics. We will not discuss this incident further. Your chores for today are listed on the refrigerator. That was Patricia's genius. She made me doubt my own reality. She gaslit me so effectively that I started wondering if maybe I had overreacted, if maybe the slap wasn't as hard as I thought, if maybe my hormones were making me irrational. When Marcus came home that weekend, Patricia was all warmth and concern, asking about the baby, making my favorite meals, even suggesting I put my feet up while she did the washing up. Marcus looked at me like I was crazy when I tried to bring up what had happened. See? She's being lovely. I think you owe Mom an apology, don't you? I was trapped. Completely and utterly trapped. I had no money of my own beyond my teacher salary, which barely covered my car expenses and personal items. I had nowhere to go. My parents lived in a tiny 2-bedroom flat in Salford and were already helping support my younger brother through university. I couldn't burden them with a pregnant daughter fleeing her marriage. And Marcus made it clear that if I left, he would side with his mother. I could see it in his eyes, hear it in his voice. He thought I was being difficult, ungrateful, hysterical. The final 3 months of my pregnancy were a special kind of hell. Patricia ramped up her campaign of cruelty, but she was careful, always careful, to leave no visible marks, to time her worst attacks for when Marcus was in London, to maintain her perfect mask whenever witnesses were present. She made me scrub floors on my hands and knees until I was breathless and dizzy. She criticized every maternity outfit I wore, calling me a beached whale, and wondering aloud how Marcus could bear to look at me. She started opening my mail, reading my private correspondence, monitoring my phone calls with friends and family. When my mother called to check on me, Patricia would hover nearby, listening to every word, making it impossible for me to speak freely. I felt like I was suffocating, drowning in plain sight while everyone around me smiled and congratulated me on my pregnancy and told me how lucky I was to have such a supportive mother-in-law helping me prepare for the baby. In my 8th month, I started having Braxton Hicks contractions, my body practicing for the real thing. They were uncomfortable but normal, my midwife assured me. Patricia, however, used them as evidence of my inadequacy. "You're making such a fuss over nothing. I never complained when I was pregnant with Marcus. You're so weak, Charlotte. So pathetically weak." My due date was June 15th, right at the end of the school year. I had planned to work until the summer holidays started, then take my maternity leave. But the baby had other ideas. On June 8th, at 3 in the morning, my water broke. The contractions started almost immediately, strong and regular, taking my breath away with their intensity. I woke Marcus, who was home for the week before the baby's arrival, and he jumped into action, timing contractions, gathering hospital bags, helping me dress. Patricia appeared in our bedroom doorway in her dressing gown, her expression unreadable. "I suppose this is it then. Try not to embarrass yourself at the hospital, Charlotte. Women have been giving birth for millennia without all this modern fuss and screaming." Even in active labor, she couldn't resist one last cruel jab. I was too focused on breathing through contractions to respond, but I saw Marcus's face darken, the first hint that maybe, finally, he was starting to see his mother for who she really was. The birth was long and difficult. 18 hours of increasingly painful contractions, complications that required intervention, moments of fear when the baby's heart rate dropped and the midwives' faces grew concerned. Marcus held my hand through all of it, and when our daughter finally arrived at 9:23 that evening, screaming and perfect and furious at the world, I saw tears streaming down his face. "She's beautiful," he whispered. "She's absolutely perfect. You did it, Char. You were so brave." We named her Lily Rose, and she was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. Tiny fingers that wrapped around mine, dark blue eyes that seemed to look right into my soul, a rosebud mouth that rooted for milk with fierce determination. Holding her for the first time, feeling her warm weight against my chest, I felt a love so intense it was almost frightening. I would die for this child. I would do anything to protect her. Patricia came to visit us in the hospital the next day, arriving with a massive bouquet of flowers and a bag from an expensive baby boutique. She cooed over Lily, took dozens of photos, played the role of devoted grandmother to perfection in front of the nurses and other visitors. But when we were alone for a moment, just the two of us while Marcus was getting coffee, she leaned in close and whispered, "Don't think this changes anything. You're still nothing, and now you've trapped yourself even more thoroughly. A baby ties you to this family forever. To me, forever." I held Lily tighter and said nothing, but something in me had shifted. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about my daughter, and I would not let Patricia poison her childhood the way she had poisoned my marriage. We brought Lily home 3 days later to a nursery Patricia had decorated without consulting me, all pink and white frills and expensive furniture that looked like a showroom rather than a baby's room. Patricia immediately took over, telling me I was holding Lily wrong, feeding her wrong, changing her nappy wrong. Every single thing I did as a new mother was criticized and corrected. When Lily cried, Patricia would sweep in and take her from my arms, making soothing noises while shooting me looks that clearly said I was incompetent. Are you still with me on this journey? If you are, and if you want to see how the story ends, please hit that subscribe button right now. We're so close to 1,000 subscribers, and your support means we can keep sharing these powerful, real stories. Just click subscribe. You won't regret it. Help us build this community together. Marcus had taken 2 weeks of paternity leave, and those 2 weeks were the calmest period since we had moved into Patricia's house. With him home all the time, Patricia had to maintain her facade, had to pretend to be helpful and supportive rather than controlling and cruel. But I could see the strain in her face, the way she watched me with barely concealed hostility when Marcus wasn't looking, the way she undermined me with subtle comments and suggestions. Are you sure you should be feeding her again? You don't want to overfeed her. That outfit doesn't fit her properly. Let me dress her. She's crying because you're holding her wrong. Here, give her to me. When Marcus went back to work in London, the mask came off completely. Patricia became possessive of Lily, treating her like a doll she owned rather than a grandchild. She would take Lily from me while I was feeding her, insisting she could do it better. She rearranged my carefully organized nappy changing station because it didn't meet her standards. She told me my milk probably wasn't nutritious enough and suggested I switch to formula so she could help with feedings. I was surviving on maybe 3 hours of sleep a night, recovering from a difficult birth, hormones all over the place, trying to bond with my new baby while Patricia sabotaged every moment. I felt like I was losing my mind, questioning every instinct, doubting every decision. Was I a terrible mother? Was I doing everything wrong? Maybe Patricia was right about me?
No.
No. Something in me whispered. No, you're not crazy. You're being abused. This is abuse. When Lily was 3 weeks old, I had my 6-week postnatal check scheduled with my GP. Patricia insisted on coming with me, of course, but I managed to have a few minutes alone with Dr. Patel while Patricia was entertaining Lily in the waiting room. Dr. Patel examined me, declared me healing well physically, and then looked at me with the same concerned expression Sarah the midwife had worn. How are you coping mentally, Charlotte? Postpartum can be challenging even in the best circumstances. Do you have good support at home? And suddenly, without planning to, I broke. I told her everything. Not the whole 3 years. There wasn't time for that, but enough. The exhaustion, the criticism, the control, the way Patricia had hit me, the way Marcus didn't believe me, the way I felt like I was drowning and Lily was my only lifeline. The words poured out of me in a breathless rush, and Dr. Patel listened without interrupting, her face growing grimmer with every sentence. Charlotte, what you're describing is domestic abuse, she said gently. It doesn't have to be physical to be abuse. Emotional and psychological abuse is just as damaging, sometimes more so. You need to get out of that house. Do you have somewhere safe you can go? I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. I have nowhere. No money. Marcus won't believe me. I'm stuck. Dr. Patel spent the next 15 minutes on the phone while I sat there trembling. She called a women's support service, explained the situation, got me numbers and resources. She documented everything I had told her in my medical records, creating a paper trail of evidence. She gave me the number of a solicitor who specialized in family law and domestic abuse cases. And she looked me directly in the eyes and said, "You are not crazy. You are not a bad mother. You are being abused, and you deserve better. So does Lily. Please promise me you'll reach out to these resources." I promised, tucking the papers deep into my bag, where Patricia wouldn't find them. But as I walked out to the waiting room and saw Patricia holding Lily, cooing at her, and playing the perfect grandmother, I felt hope drain away. How could I leave? Where would I go? What would Marcus do if I tried to take Lily away from his mother? July melted into August, the summer heat oppressive and sticky. Patricia's behavior became increasingly erratic and controlling. She started locking the good food in her bedroom, leaving me with cheap basics to cook with while she ate gourmet meals. She criticized my body constantly, making comments about my post-baby weight, my stretched belly, my exhausted appearance. She insisted on being present for every single interaction I had with Lily, watching me like a hawk, waiting for me to make mistakes she could pounce on. "You're not burping her properly. That nappy is too loose. Why is she crying? What did you do to her?" I felt myself fracturing, breaking apart into pieces I wasn't sure I could ever put back together. I stopped eating properly, too tired and too stressed to care. I stopped sleeping beyond the brief snatches between Lily's night feedings. I stopped calling my friends because I couldn't pretend anymore that everything was fine, and I couldn't tell them the truth. My mother grew increasingly worried with every phone call, but I kept reassuring her everything was wonderful, the baby was perfect, I was just tired. All new mums are tired. Nothing to worry about. On August 14th, a Tuesday afternoon that was muggy and close with threatening thunderstorms, everything came to a head. Lily was 6 weeks old and going through a growth spurt, feeding constantly and barely sleeping. I was absolutely shattered, operating on pure instinct and adrenaline. I had been up since 4 in the morning with a fussy baby, had barely eaten anything all day, and was trying to prepare dinner while holding Lily because she wouldn't stop crying if I put her down. Patricia came into the kitchen and immediately started criticizing. Why is she crying? You need to feed her properly. And why isn't dinner ready? It's nearly 6 o'clock. I shouldn't have to tell you this, Charlotte, but punctuality and routine are important in a household. She just ate 30 minutes ago, I said, my voice flat with exhaustion. She's going through a growth spurt. This is normal. And dinner will be ready in 15 minutes. Don't make excuses. You're not feeding her enough. Give her to me. Patricia reached for Lily, and something in me snapped. I turned away, protecting my baby with my body. No. She doesn't need you right now. She needs her mother. Patricia's face flushed an ugly red. How dare you speak to me like that in my own home? I have been more than patient with your inadequacies, more than generous in allowing you to stay here, and this is how you repay me? By being insolent and keeping my grandchild from me? She's not your grandchild to keep, I said, my voice stronger now, months of suppressed anger finally rising to the surface. She's my daughter, mine and Marcus's. And I'm done, Patricia. I'm done with your cruelty, your criticism, your constant undermining. I'm done pretending this is normal or okay. You've made my life hell for 3 years, and I won't let you do the same to Lily. For a moment, Patricia just stared at me, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. Then her hand shot out and grabbed my arm, her fingers digging in hard enough to leave bruises. You ungrateful little bitch. After everything I've done for you, everything I've tolerated, this is how you behave? You are nothing, do you hear me? Nothing. You trapped my son with your pregnancy, moved into my house, lived off my generosity, and now you have the audacity to speak to me this way. I wrenched my arm free, still holding Lily close. Your generosity? You've treated me like a slave. You've criticized every breath I've taken, worked me until I collapsed, hit me when I was pregnant, and now you're trying to take over my baby's life. This isn't generosity, Patricia. This is abuse. Her eyes went cold, colder than I had ever seen them. She walked slowly to the counter, and I watched in horrified confusion as she picked up one of the decorative bricks she used as a doorstop, a heavy red brick that must have weighed at least 3 pounds. She turned back to me, holding it in her hand, and I saw something truly frightening in her face, a rage so pure and uncontrolled that it made my blood run cold. You want to call me abusive? She hissed. You want to play the victim? Let me show you what real consequences look like, you useless fat cow. She drew her arm back, and I had maybe half a second to register what was happening before she threw the brick directly at my head. Time seemed to slow down. I turned instinctively, protecting Lily with my whole body, and felt the brick whistle past my ear, so close I felt the air displacement. It hit the wall behind me with a tremendous crack, exploding into chunks and dust, leaving a crater in the plaster that exposed the brick underneath. Get out of my house. Patricia screamed, her face contorted with fury. Get out right now. You and that baby, get out. I stood there frozen, covered in brick dust, my ears ringing from the impact, Lily screaming in my arms from the shock and noise. Pieces of brick were scattered across the floor, across the dinner I had been preparing, across the baby bottles drying on the counter. The crater in the wall was at exactly the height my head had been seconds before. If I hadn't turned, if I hadn't moved to protect Lily, that brick would have connected with my skull. I could have been killed. My baby could have been killed. Something crystallized in that moment. Absolute clarity cut through 3 years of gaslighting and self-doubt. This woman had just tried to hurt me, possibly kill me, while I was holding my infant daughter. There was no explaining this away, no justifying it, no pretending it was anything other than what it was. Patricia Thornton was dangerous, and I needed to get my baby to safety right now. Okay, I said, my voice eerily calm. Okay, I'll go. I walked past Patricia, who was still breathing heavily, her hands shaking, and went upstairs to our bedroom. I grabbed my phone with trembling hands and took photographs of everything. The brick pieces on the floor, the crater in the wall, the red mark on my arm where Patricia had grabbed me. Everything. Then I called 999. Police, please, I said when the operator answered. My mother-in-law just threw a brick at my head while I was holding my 6-week-old baby. I need help. The operator's voice was immediately alert and concerned. Are you injured? Is the baby injured? Are you in immediate danger? We're not hurt, but she told me to get out of the house, and I'm scared of what she'll do if I try to leave. Please, I need help. I have a newborn baby. Stay on the line with me. Officers are being dispatched to your location now. Can you lock yourself in a room until they arrive? I did exactly that, locking Lily and myself in the bedroom while Patricia pounded on the door, screaming about how I was being dramatic, how I was overreacting, how she barely touched me, how I was trying to ruin her reputation. I stayed on the phone with the operator, feeding Lily and trying to calm my racing heart, while police sirens grew closer. 2 police officers arrived within 10 minutes, a man and a woman, both looking serious and professional. I heard Patricia's voice downstairs, suddenly sweet and reasonable, explaining that there had been a misunderstanding and that her unstable daughter-in-law was having some sort of postpartum episode. But the officers weren't fooled. They came upstairs, documented everything, took photographs of the scene, took my statement, and called for a domestic violence liaison officer. If you're still listening and you want to know how this incredible story ends, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel. We're working toward 1,000 subscribers, and every subscription helps us continue sharing these important real-life stories. Just hit that red subscribe button. It literally takes 2 seconds, and you'll be supporting our mission to give voice to experiences that need to be heard. Patricia was arrested that night for assault with a deadly weapon and threatening behavior. She was taken away in handcuffs, still protesting her innocence, still insisting I was lying, still playing the dignified victim even as the police documented the crime scene in her kitchen. The female officer, whose name was Constable Morrison, sat with me while I gave my full statement, and I told her everything. All 3 years of abuse, the gaslighting, the control, the slap when I was pregnant, everything I had been holding inside for so long. You're incredibly brave, Constable Morrison said gently. And you've done exactly the right thing. Your daughter is safe now. You're both safe. I called Marcus from the police station, my voice shaking. Your mother threw a brick at my head tonight. She's been arrested. You need to come home right now. There was stunned silence on the other end of the line.
What?
Char, that can't be. Are you sure you're not? Marcus, there are police officers here. There's a crater in your mother's kitchen wall. There are photographs and statements and witnesses. This is real. This happened. And you need to decide right now whether you believe me or her, because I am not bringing our daughter back to that house. Ever. I heard him take a shaky breath. I'm leaving London right now. I'll be there in 3 hours. Just stay where you are. Don't go anywhere. We'll figure this out. The domestic violence liaison officer, a compassionate woman named Claire, helped me arrange emergency accommodation at a women's refuge for that night. She gave me information about protection orders, about my legal rights, about resources available for victims of domestic abuse. She assured me that I had done nothing wrong, that I was not overreacting, that my safety and Lily's safety were the priority now. Marcus arrived at midnight, his face gray with shock and exhaustion. He looked at the photographs the police had taken, read my statement, spoke to the officers. And then he looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw the moment he finally understood. The weight loss, the dark circles, the way I had become a shadow of myself over the past 3 years. All of it clicked into place. Oh God, Char, he whispered. What has she done to you? What have I let her do to you? We sat in that police station until 3 in the morning, and I told him everything. Every cruel comment, every impossible demand, every moment of abuse I had suffered while he was in London, blissfully unaware or willfully blind. I watched his face cycle through disbelief, horror, guilt, and finally rage, not at me, but at his mother, at himself, for not seeing it sooner. I'm so sorry, he kept saying over and over. I'm so sorry I didn't believe you. I'm so sorry I wasn't there. I'm so sorry I let this happen. Sorry isn't enough, I said, my voice hard. Your mother tried to kill me tonight, Marcus. In front of our baby. Sorry doesn't fix that. Sorry doesn't give me back 3 years of my life. Sorry doesn't undo the trauma. I know. Just tell me what you need. Tell me what I can do to make this right. I need you to choose us. Me and Lily. Not your mother. Us. I need you to support me through whatever comes next, whether that's court cases or therapy or rebuilding our marriage. I need you to believe me, to stand by me, to never make me doubt my own reality again.
Can you do that?
He took my hand, tears streaming down his face.
Yes.
I choose you. I choose our family. I should have done it 3 years ago, and I will spend the rest of my life making it up to you. I promise. We stayed in the women's refuge for 2 weeks while Marcus found us a rental house in Manchester, far away from Chester, far away from Patricia. He quit his London project, took a position with his company's Manchester office, and spent every moment trying to prove he meant what he said. He came to every therapy session I started attending, listened while I unpacked years of trauma, held me when I had nightmares about bricks flying at my head. Patricia was released on bail with strict conditions not to contact me or come near me. Her solicitor tried to paint her as a confused elderly woman who had snapped under stress, but the prosecution had 3 years of documented evidence. The photographs I had taken that night, the medical records from Dr. Patel, and Sarah the midwife documenting my accounts of abuse, even testimony from some of Patricia's neighbors who had witnessed her berating me in the garden. The case was solid. The trial took place in November 2021, for months after the incident. I had to testify, had to relive everything in front of a courtroom full of strangers, had to watch Patricia sitting there in her tasteful suit and pearls, still playing the dignified matriarch. But this time, no one was fooled. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, listened to all the evidence and then delivered a verdict that made my knees weak with relief. Patricia Thornton, you have been found guilty of assault with a deadly weapon, domestic abuse, and threatening behavior. Your actions toward your daughter-in-law over a period of 3 years constitute a campaign of sustained psychological and physical abuse. The fact that you committed this assault while the victim was holding an infant makes your crime particularly heinous. You showed no remorse, no acknowledgement of wrongdoing, and in my view, you represent a continued danger. Patricia was sentenced to 18 months in prison, with an additional 5-year restraining order upon her release. I watched her face crumble as the sentence was read, watched her finally lose that mask of control she had worn for so long. She looked at Marcus as she was led away, and I saw her mouth the words, "How could you?" But Marcus just shook his head and turned away, his arm around me, choosing us like he had promised. The months that followed were about healing. Individual therapy for me to process the trauma and rebuild my sense of self-worth. Couples therapy for Marcus and me to repair the damage to our marriage and learn to communicate better. I filed for divorce from Patricia's influence, not from Marcus, but from the dynamic that had nearly destroyed us. We had to learn to be a family, just the 3 of us, without the poisonous presence that had infiltrated every aspect of our relationship. Lily is 2 years old now, a bright, happy toddler with Marcus's smile and my stubborn determination. We live in a comfortable house in Didsbury, and I'm back teaching part-time at a primary school I love. Marcus works from home 3 days a week, hands-on and present in a way he never was before. We're rebuilding, slowly, carefully, making sure our foundation is solid this time. My mother visits frequently, making up for lost time, spoiling Lily with the kind of unconditional grandmother love that Patricia could never provide. My father taught Lily to say bus as her 3rd word, and I've never seen him so proud. We have family dinners where people laugh and no one criticizes the cooking. We have holidays where I can relax without fear. We have a home that feels safe. Patricia was released from prison last month after serving her full sentence. The restraining order means she cannot contact us, cannot come within 100 meters of our home, cannot attend any events where she knows we'll be present. Marcus has had no contact with her since the trial. His sister, who lives in Scotland and had also experienced Patricia's controlling behavior growing up, reached out to us with support and solidarity. The family isn't broken. It's just reconfigured without the toxic element at its center. I still have hard days. Days when I hear a loud noise and flinch instinctively. Days when someone criticizes something innocuous I've done, and I feel that old panic rising. Days when I look at Lily and remember holding her while a brick flew past my head, and I have to breathe through the terror of what might have been. But I also have good days, more and more of them, where I feel strong and capable and proud of surviving. People ask me sometimes how I stayed so long, why I didn't leave sooner, why I didn't fight back harder. And I want them to understand that abuse doesn't happen all at once. It's gradual, insidious, like a frog in slowly boiling water. It makes you question your own perception of reality. It isolates you from support systems. It convinces you that you're the problem, that you're too sensitive, too dramatic, too difficult. It traps you with financial dependence, social pressure, and fear of not being believed. But I also want people to know that you can escape. That there are resources, people who will believe you, systems in place to help even when it seems hopeless. That you are not crazy, you are not weak, and you deserve better. That your children deserve better. That speaking up, even when you're terrified, even when you think no one will listen, is the bravest thing you can do. Before we wrap up this story, I want to ask one more time, if you found this story meaningful or important, please subscribe to our channel. We're so close to reaching 1,000 subscribers, and your support helps us share more stories like Charlotte's, stories that need to be told, experiences that need to be validated. Just click that subscribe button, help us reach our goal, and be part of this growing community. The brick that Patricia threw at me missed by inches, but in missing, it shattered more than just a wall. It shattered the illusion she had carefully maintained, the facade of respectability that had protected her for so long. It shattered my chains and set me free. And while I wouldn't wish my experience on anyone, I can say with certainty that I am stronger now than I ever was before. I know my worth. I know my voice matters. I know that I survived something terrible and came out the other side. Marcus and I are still married, still working on building the relationship we should have had from the beginning. There's forgiveness, but there's also accountability. He knows he failed me, and he works every day to ensure he never fails me or Lily again. We're honest now in ways we never were before. We don't sweep problems under the rug or make excuses for bad behavior. We face things head-on together. Last week, Lily brought me a drawing she had made at nursery, stick figures holding hands under a bright yellow sun. "That's you and Daddy and me," she said proudly. "We're happy." And we are. Despite everything we went through, despite the scars we carry, we are happy. We are safe. We are free. Patricia's brick didn't destroy me. It freed me. And that's something she will never, ever understand.